The first impression that many people got from her was somebody very shy and quiet. That is very, very true in many ways. Publicly, she was very shy and quiet. But she was also extremely strong. She had very strong opinions about music.
I just cannot be more proud of having and keep working with Kaija Saariaho and her music. One of the most important things that I learned with her is to really work to make happen your dreams and don't regret not to accomplish them.
So here we are, Muziekgebouw.
Before the big adventure of this beautiful festival that we started in
2017, when we first met.
When we first met.
In the meantime, we've had COVID.
Yes,
the world changed a lot. I think also when we started the conversation, it was my wish and the Muziekgebouw's wish really to work with a composer, who could be present at the festival. We had this idea, it would be great to connect her to also a younger generation of musicians. Mm-hmm. Of course, sadly enough, she passed away. That was a huge, I think, for you, a huge personal moment in your life. Mm-hmm. I think we spoke that day. I think it touches us. It touched both of us deeply.
And I think that this is also something that we have to remember. Kaija was also at the beginning of the discussion, so some of the ideas that we have developed were also coming from her.
In January 1982, Kaija came to participate to the computer music workshop for composers, which was organized by then at IRCAM. It was a 6 weeks workshop. And I was one of the teachers and organizers of this workshop. So that's how we met. IRCAM by then, it was many people working late by night, having all sorts of very intensive conversations while waiting for calculations to proceed. And she was extremely interested about all the new possibilities at computer music.
She asked me to go several times to IRCAM in Paris and record just some long notes on the cello. And what she did with these long notes, I had no idea at the time how she was going to use them. But what she did was that she was analyzing the sounds of the cello, and in that way also the sounds of my cello. And she analyzed the spectrum of the sounds and particular qualities.
You specified some parameters, you were starting a calculation, and then you got a sound which was usually a few seconds and hardly more than 10 seconds. And then from that sound you would start to build another sound, or you would try to improve this and that characteristic of that sound. You can imagine basically all the sounds you could have in your mind compositionally and realize them for the very first time in the history of music.
She gave me her first solo cello piece, 1988, 20th of January. I remember that very well because it was the day also when my daughter was born. When she handed me that piece, it was like her world with the cello was ready. We didn't need to discuss anything anymore. We had covered all of that, the subject, and she had built herself her idea of the cello.
I will be playing Saariaho's violin concerto Grau Fedor. One of the things that she looks for a lot in this piece is many, many different colors in the violin, and she finds a lot of these with the way that we use the bow. So if I were to play kind of normally, and then she's also moving, whether she wants me to play closer to the bridge over here, or way over what we call the fingerboard over here.
what are all the thousands of different colors that you can do. These are basically very simple things, but actually she developed an understanding of saying a lot with extremely simple idea of the sound.
It's such a wonderful, full of so many different colors and fantasy. And as a violinist, I think it gives you this wonderful possibility to search within your instrument for everything that it can get out in a very lyrical and very expressive way. She likes to use this kind of overpressure, so much more weight on the string than what we would normally use. I think it's the feeling is almost as if you have this sound and then you really dive inside the sound waves themselves and see what's inside. What's very interesting about the piece is that it feels and sounds very free. There is this, of course, a structure behind it that's very well made, but the feeling of fantasy, of improvisation actually runs throughout the whole piece.
Then until 2020, when she wrote her last piece for me, all she did was basically she kind of just crystallized what she had started then. The world, she lived in her world with the cello, and she just little by little took out everything that wasn't necessary anymore, and until the very end.
So then you have this kind of shimmering effect that the instrument isn't quite playing its one note, but it's not quite playing the other. They're both kind of happening at once. I would say for me personally, it evokes a lot of imagery, a lot of space actually that I get to walk around in as a performer. That I get to add little shimmers of light here and there, and chances that I can sing into this big cavern of sound that's around me.
I met Kaija in the summer of 2000 when she was preparing the world premiere of her first opera, Amour de Loin, at the Salzburg Festival. And I had been hired as a rehearsal translator for Peter Sellers, the director. And I remember Kaija's presence, at the same time gentle but also very determined, defending this big new piece, which was a momentous thing for her, but also for the festival. Fairly linear in its narrative development, which at the time was really quite revolutionary. But the linear narrative with a very rich score created something extremely powerful. I think that audiences responded to then, but audiences still respond to it today. 25 years later, Amour de Loin has actually had an amazing life. For a new piece, has seen numerous new productions. It's been performed all over the world. I think it's really due to Kaija's determination to write the piece and tell the story that she really wanted to write and tell.
She was so disciplined, so keen on modeling every single detail. Everything had to be, I will not say perfect, but everything had to be efficient. And the efficiency became like a pleasure and our way of working together.
The way we worked together was, it was interesting because you couldn't separate our friendship and our daily conversations from the professional contact. We spoke on the phone almost daily, and we really covered all the subjects. She never liked to speak about the piece she was writing at that moment. We could speak about the idea of the piece in general, but she never told me what she was doing at that moment. She might send me 2-3 notes by email or earlier by fax, and I would sometimes I would take the phone and I would put the phone on my music stand and play those two notes, and we would discuss that. It was very nice to have this very open friendship. That I could say anything, and I didn't need to be afraid that she would misunderstand me.
She was really somebody living totally in music and for music. All the time working, all the time obsessed by working and developing musical ideas and being eager to be able to transcribe them and bring them to reality.
When she died, I felt very strongly that we needed to have Kaija in the building. She has a strong history with the company, and so we named a space here at the Bastille, in the public space of the Bastille, after her, a small reception space. It was very important to me that her name would remain in the building permanently.
A lot of people in the musical community, for instance in Finland, are regretting that she's not there anymore, because she was representing this authority and legitimacy who would come on TV or would come on the parliament in front of the politicians to claim that things should be done in a different way, and that means for education, means for research, means for the arts and music should always be preserved.
Especially in the last years, she became a very strong advocate for many things in music and in social life. For many, many years, it was very painful for her to get on stage at the end of a concert. She felt very uncomfortable, and yet she was a strong-minded, determined person at the same time, which surely comes partly from coming from a small country and being a woman in a world that was predominantly men's world, the composers in the 1980s.
She was more actively fighting for young people in general, but especially young women, getting better access, getting better means, getting better conditions to develop themselves and work.
In a way, if you see how she connects to other fields like the arts, electronic music, but also working with a jazz trumpet player that she found fascinating, how he would actually treat his instrument. You always see that she is crossing over boundaries, and I think that's so important. And I think her work, like, of course you can present it in a concert version, but you also can create a landscape with it. Somehow there's so much openness in what she is offering. I think it's an extremely generous catalogue that I think people can really explore, and you can explore possibilities.
Yeah, it is. I think that everyone can find a great piece that could live with that person forever.